blessedly brilliant effect of Dharma is when it's clear that all that is being described is something that your being is yearning for anyway. It's very clear that man's nature is innately good. But then, in Western Christianity, you've got original sin. And even within Catholicism, original sin, they'll say, well, yes, but we were created in God's image. So it's not, But then by the time you get to like Luther and then Calvin, it's just like, no, man is bad, basically. He is innately so, whatever Adam had that was okay is cracked and destroyed. You really can't get to it. Your man is innately, what's the word? There's a word for it. There's the tulip, I think it's but anyway, there's an acronym around man being like incredibly corrupt and hopelessly lost. That is nonsense. Absolute patent nonsense. And disturbing nonsense at that. Very destructive nonsense. Yes, there can be dams blocking the flow of a river. There can be sticks blocking as obstacles flowing, but that is an innate force in water to want to go downhill. There is an innate force in you that wants good. Period. It isn't like a choice. It's in you. It's what you are. It gets incredibly distorted due to confusion, which is, in Buddhism, sometimes it's translated, sometimes it's ignorance, delusion, confusion. I like confusion is good because it seems less like a value judgment. You tell somebody they're ignorant, well, they can educate themselves. But confusion, all you could do is, calm them down. And that's a lot of what evil is. It's confusion about the way things are. So innately, we are wired toward moving toward merit. This is why Kathy, in her question, really, in a sense, has nothing to fear and can trust both God or the universe or the transcendent to accept and love and guide toward what is natural, because basically God is the gravity. God is the lower ground. And she can trust herself that yes, there's going to be obstacles. The eddies happen, the whirlpools. There's times when the water doesn't reach the ground right away, the bottom, the lower ground right away, but it is moving in that direction naturally. And when we go, oh, can I trust myself? That's the water kind of in a whirlpool, not able to get, I know I should be going at lower ground, but look, I'm going the wrong way. Seeing it. But it's innate. Otherwise, there would be no concern whatsoever. Oh, I'm fine. Who cares? But there's like, oh, something's not quite right. So that innate natural desire for clarity and for goodness, for God, for the lower ground, for the water to reach lower ground, is natural, totally natural, is what we are. So yeah, definite merit for sure, value for sure. You reach a certain point and you want awakening, you want clarity, you want freedom. all beings want freedom. Even when they're bound, they think that that's freedom. That's why they're bound. And now I'm speaking relatively, but even you get involved with drugs, you think this is freedom. You get involved with any number of things, you think this is freedom. Freedom from whatever. People are in jail because they wanted to be free from constraints. It's about freedom. It's about God ultimately. Everybody's thing is about God ultimately, because it's our nature. But it's just, some people are, so you have to protect yourself from some people on their it's like they're terrorists doing it for God. And they can be terrorists consciously doing it for God. They can be thieves and rapists and murderers. They're still going for some kind of freedom, goodness, whatever. It's just horribly distorted, and you have to protect yourself from those people, no doubt. So I'm not saying there isn't any evil, but what's the nature of it is very, very different than Judaism, and not Judaism, and Christianity. And the nature of evil is very different in Christianity from, let's say, Stoicism or Buddhism or Hinduism. And that makes all the difference, because it isn't a strange thing that you want to become free and want to be, to move towards merit. It's just becoming conscious of it, more and more conscious, more and more intentional, more and more clear about it. That piece is very important, because otherwise it's like kind of that thing again. I won't even mention the name of the other the tradition where I was raised in. I won't say it again. This thing of not trusting yourself, and so you feel like what you're doing is you're like getting yourself to do something that is like against what you would do otherwise. It's not that. It's actually you can be honest with yourself, like, oh, I'm not ready to give that up yet. I don't know if I will be. I still think that gives me freedom. Let me bring more insight into it to see if it does or not. And then you get to the point where you're like, well, I still, I don't know, maybe Buddha's wrong about this. I'm going to keep doing this. But you bring insight into it. You be honest about it, so that when you see whatever untoward effects, I mean, in a way, the whole tantric tradition is about not, going as far as you can to see through insight what is really harmful, rather than through rules. So that's part of the deal. It's like, okay, let me really see what happens to me if I'm lying in my relationships. Uh-oh, not good. I can see. I have to constantly dealing with two things. I'm not being honest actually does if I have a whole thing going on. But I'm going to continue to do it anyway, because I'm still getting more. You just keep watching, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not actually worth it. This thing keeps changing. Holding on to those 5 other levers is really getting confusing. I wonder if I could keep it from her. It's like, no, eventually it's like you realize this is like all the not all of the rules, but I understand the point of any lying to my boss, lying to my wife, lying to myself. Those are not real examples. Gosh, Vivian, help. Anyway, so does that make sense, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's because there's certainly coming from the point of view of judgment, self-judgment.
Right.
There's that. But there's also this just I don't know, it's something less weighted, maybe just choosing to be open, you know,
Yes.
which is a little bit, a little bit less. I mean, believe me, I experienced the judgment part, but it's sometimes it's not just that, it's something just,
What else?
well, and I don't know. And I assume it's fear. I don't know, something.
Yeah, and that's okay. In other words, well, you could say, why did I think that I'd be on the express lane? Like, maybe I have to be with fear for a while. Because what that does is it slow, for me, whenever I'm allowing myself to be imperfect and have fear, let's say, then I can actually slow down and let myself be afraid and see what the nature of that fear is, not so I can get rid of it, but so that I can actually see it. I mean, there's really a lot to be said for just letting yourself recognize that exactly as you are, with every kind of limitation or imperfection or whatever you want to call it, you're fine. You're already, you are both free and that at the same time. You are consciousness itself. You are, this is where the simultaneity is helpful to think about, rather than thinking like, well, I have moments when I'm being free, and then I have moments when I'm, or really I'm just free. You can also say you are free and also imperfect and limited at the same time. You are the manifest being, and the manifest being, in your case, in this moment, has fear and is fearful, and probably, and you can even give yourself, like, as a skillful means, as a method, as a technique, you can just go, okay, I'll probably be fearful for this life and maybe 30 other lives. So this is okay. So I'm going to be afraid. I'm never going to actually go over that cliff. And so, but I'm already free. I know that. Even if I'm not permanently there in the way that I think I should be. I'm not in that state, like a Zen master would be. But I've experienced that. I know that I'm emptiness itself, and I'm also this frightened person. So now we feel this fright, this fear that I am, and this frightened person, and let myself be this frightened person that's arising in consciousness. No need to change it. No need to do anything about it. You
And
see?
what's 30 lives, Just,
Or 3,000 lives or 30,000 lives. Right.
right.
Well, the thing is like, the thing is you're, as long as there's form, there's limitation.
Right.
So if it's not this one, it's another one.
Right.
So you are limitation, and limitation keeps shifting the kind of limit it is. And you are the unlimited in which the limitation is arising. And let that be your self-inquiry. And try that one on. Just be that. Yeah. Simultaneity, both ends.
Yeah.
I mean, it relieves a lot of energy that's bound up in wanting to change by doing that. You don't really have to change anything. You're already fine. Or you could say it another way: change will happen out of holding that frame of reference naturally. Anything else, Andrew?
No, this is very, very helpful.